a big issue nowadays is why we don't care more about if kids are physically fit or not. We're not afraid to tell kids like, oh, you're not good at math or you're not good at reading. You need to go get help in those areas. But we're, as a society, kind of scared to tell kids that kids and their parents that you're physically unfit and you need to do something about it. Physical literacy is more than just knowing how to play a sport or being good at a certain sport. It's more about getting these kids to understand why it's important to be physically fit or have physical literacy. Um, a lot of these kids have it in their minds like, oh, I'm just not good at that sport, or I'm not good at gym class, and those PE classes have to be more than that. They have to be, broken down more to the science, and a lot of that science has been taken out of PE classes nowadays. These kids just go and they think that they are, they're just going to PE class because they have to go, and it's something that's mandated, by the state and by the Board of Education, and so they think that, they're just going to PE class to go run around, and it has to be a little more than that nowadays. These kids really need to understand why it's important to be physically fit, and how when you're not physically fit, how it can affect other things in the classroom.
So the earlier that kids are encouraged to move, the better it is for them. Brain development is happening all the time. And so we often hear about this idea of malleability of a child's brain associated with language. This is also true for the nervous system. So students have a greater potential to move and to learn about the way that their bodies move at a younger age. So the earlier that this is encouraged, the better it is for them. Harry Tor in the video mentioned that this idea of learning to move and becoming regular about exercises leads to this greater potential of children wanting to move later in life. Over time, humans have learned that it's not only necessary to move, but this necessity has changed. So before, humans were moving because it was their way of survival, and this trend has moved into this idea of moving still being necessary, but in a different type of way. And this idea of movement has been encouraged through team sports. And so we often see that team sports are what is encouraged with this idea of movement. And that's what you see in a lot of physical education systems and programs throughout schools. However, this idea of younger children enjoying PE and wanting to move is something that changes as they get older. So when students are in high school, ninth grade typically, is what was discussed in the video, that children are not enjoying physical education anymore. And a lot of the times that's because this idea of team sports isn't something that excites them. So thinking outside of this idea of team sports, we see this idea of physical literacy that needs to be considered. So Stanley Park says that childhood obesity is something that's a huge problem that exists. And the program that exists is something that needs to be changed, because this idea of physical literacy encourages a journey that lasts a lifetime when considering physical education and physical literacy. So there's more than just what is going on in schools. This idea that students, parents, schools, and society at large needs to realize that they should be pushing for reform and showing children how to move their bodies, and not just within the sports realm, but helping them realize that there's avenues outside of sport that helps them be excited about moving and playing and wanting to do these things for a lifetime.